Hey, we're on book 3 of the Odyssey, part 1. Chapter 1 starts on page 175 in my book. Remember, Odysseus has just traveled to the land of the dead. Tiresias has told him that he needs to go back home, but on the way, he should stay away from the sheep and cattle on the island of the sun god, the land of the living. Thousands of wailing ghosts moved toward Odysseus. Their anguished cries echoed through the fog. Odysseus and his men began to run. They ran for their lives, fleeing from the dead. "Land ahead!" one of Odysseus's men called. Odysseus woke from his nightmare. He had fallen asleep on the deck of his ship. He had been dreaming of his visit to the spirit world, ruled by Hades and Persephone. Now, in the distance, he could see the island of Circe the enchantress. "I will tell Circe all that I saw and heard in the land of the dead," he thought. "Then surely she will help us find our way home to Ithaca." For 12 long years, Odysseus had yearned to return to the Greek island of Ithaca and be reunited with his beloved wife and son. During that time, he and his men had fought in the Trojan War. They had battled the Cyclops, a one-eyed monster. They had escaped cannibal giants, losing all but one of their ships. Odysseus had charmed the wily enchantress Circe, and he and his men had now survived a journey to the land of the dead, a journey from which no mortal had ever before returned alive. As they sailed now towards Circe's sunlit island, the Greeks cheered. The island was covered with beautiful green forests and ringed by rocky shores. Birds sang in the trees as the Greeks anchored their ship. But as the sun went down and they dragged themselves ashore, a great weariness overtook them. Each man collapsed to the sand, too exhausted to speak. Lying on the cool beach, Odysseus stared up at the moon and stars. He pushed away all his memories of the land of the dead. He felt the soft breezes and listened to the waves lap up the shore. The world of the living seemed an extraordinary place indeed. So since he's been in the land of the dead, he has a greater appreciation for the world of the living. As rosy-fingered dawn spread over the island, Odysseus opened his eyes. He saw Circe emerge from her palace. She was dressed in a beautiful gown of rainbow colors. Her handmaidens trailed behind her in the fresh morning air, carrying trays of meat, bread, and wine. Odysseus jumped to his feet and awakened his men. Then he hurried to greet the goddess. Though the enchantress had once tried to harm him and his men, she was now their friend and protector. "Greetings," Odysseus called. "Welcome, my brave friends," said Circe, smiling. "You have done what no other mortals have ever done. You have traveled to the land of the dead and returned. When you die, others will say that you have died twice." "Yes, we are grateful to the gods for our safe journey back to your island," Odysseus said. "We pray that you will now help us find our way home to Ithaca." "Indeed, I will," said Circe. "But today you must rest, for you have had a long, hard voyage ahead of you. Feast and drink and celebrate your return. Then tomorrow, when dawn breaks, you shall set sail for Ithaca." The men cheered. They were famished and thirsty and delighted to spend the day in the company of Circe and her lovely handmaidens. All morning and all afternoon, Odysseus and his men feasted and drank wine. When the sun finally set and darkness covered the island, the men lay down in the hollow of their ship and fell fast asleep. Odysseus himself did not rest. Circe took him by the hand and led him into the moonlit forest. Together they sat in the shadows beneath a towering oak. "Tell me of your journey, Odysseus. What did you see in the land of the dead? What did you learn there?" Odysseus told Circe about his journey to the gray kingdom of Hades and Persephone, rulers of the dead. He told her about the spirits who had come forth, begging for blood so they might be restored to life. "Among them was my mother," he said sorrowfully. "She died of grief, waiting for me to come home to Ithaca. She told me that my father and my wife and son still ache for my return. I spoke also with my friend Achilles, who was slain in the Trojan War. I spoke with the high king Agamemnon. I saw Heracles, Sisyphus, and Tantalus. Finally, I spoke with the blind prophet Tiresias." "And what did the prophet tell you?" asked Circe. "He gave me wise counsel and warning," said Odysseus. "This is what he said. On your way home, you will pass the island of the sun god. On this island, there are many beautiful sheep and cattle. Do not let your men touch even one of these creatures. They are much adored by the sun. Anyone who tries to slay them will meet his doom. You alone might escape, but if you do, you will be a broken man. You will find great trouble in your house." Circe sighed. "Yes, those are wise words," she said. "But before you reach this island of the sun god, you must brave other dangers. Listen to me carefully, Odysseus, for I am about to speak of terrible things. But do exactly as I say, and you and your men will find your way home." So Circe's about to add to this advice that Tiresias is given, and we're about to find out of all the horrible things that apparently await Odysseus and his men.